your Baltimore Ravens at the Chargers. We talked about how bad the Chargers are on defense. Looks like, could this be Lamar Jackson getting Brandon Staley fired this week?
Well, Lamar's been fantastic in primetime games on a number of occasions throughout his career. And it just seems like he is one of those players who can really shine. Like last week on Thursday Night Football, he was back in the top 5 QBs for the first time in 3 weeks. And it was getting to that point where fantasy managers were definitely getting rather annoyed with the lack of passing touchdowns. But I mean, this Ravens offense, we've scored 30 plus points for 4 weeks in a row, which is a huge amount of points to be scoring consistently. Lamar's averaged 51 rushing yards over the last 3 games. And even without Mark Andrews, there are going to be games where it's going to be difficult and Lamar's going to be looking for that safety valve and it's just not there. But I don't think it's going to be against this Chargers defense who allow the second most wide receiver fantasy points, the 4th most slot wide receiver points, the 3rd most tight end fantasy points. So perhaps it's wheels up for Isaiah Likely. We saw it in limited points last year where against the Bucks where he came in and was dominant. But they also allow the 7th most fantasy points to running backs. So it feels like the Ravens can go in and do whatever they want here. They could lean run heavy. We could have another game where Gus Edwards is just diving into the end zone for his 10th touchdown in 6 games. It sounds like Odell Beckham might miss this game. He didn't practice today. He's got a shoulder injury, which is a shame coming off 100 yards for the first time in a ridiculously long time. But he'd had 100 yards or a touchdown in each of the last 3 games, been a wide receiver 32 or better in all of them. Zay Flowers has also been having a couple of really nice games. The touchdowns haven't been there. Last week, he had a 60-yard one called back incorrectly for a terrible call. But in week 1, when Mark Andrews didn't play, the Ravens absolutely fed Zay Flowers. He had 11 touches that week. Rashad Bateman getting back involved, had his first touchdown all year, and they're starting to really try and make that deep shot work to him. So perhaps that works. On the other side of it, try to work out how the Chargers are going to attack the Ravens is really difficult because outside of Keenan Allen, the Chargers just have nothing right now. Quentin Johnson is an absolute zero. Jalen Guyton missed out last week. I'm not sure if he's going to be healthy for this week. Gerald Everett missed out last week, and Donald Parham didn't do much. Keenan Allen, he's had 30 targets in his last 2 games, back-to-back 100-plus yard games. But the Ravens, they allow the 5th fewest wide receiver fantasy points. Marlon Humphrey's going to be healthy this week. Their secondary's been a real strength over the last few games. Perhaps it turns into an Austin Eckler game because the Ravens have allowed 9th most fantasy points to running backs this year. And it looks like Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen are starting to get a little bit tired and they could do with slightly less snaps. But Austin Eckler, since week 6, is averaging 3.4 yards per carry. He's had less than 25 receiving yards in 2 of the last 3. And if you saw the clip last week of him jogging to the sideline, it was brutal how slow he looked. And yeah, I just, maybe I'm being biased, but the Ravens at 3.5 points, I just think this is going to be a full touchdown of the Ravens.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm really not excited about this Chargers team. I think what Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore are doing is working absolute wonders because the offensive line is struggling. The rest of this team is banged up and they've got no explosion, nobody exciting in this offense at all. I wrote about Austin Eckler in my article for our members. I think that he is a must sell if you're in Dynasty and you're not contender. I think he's probably still going to be fantasy relevant towards the end of the year, just getting there on volume alone. We know he's going to get that high volume of targets, but he looks slow. Yes, he's probably still recovering slightly from the ankle injury, but he's 28. He's going to be 29 in the offseason. He's a free agent at the end of this year. I'd be shocked if any team's going to pay him money in free agency. He knew that. That's the reason why he held out and wanted more money at the beginning of the season. I think if you're looking towards any future in Dynasty, you need to be getting out of Austin Eckler as quickly as you can.